have Sue and Gwen from Rito, Maioha, Early Childhood New Zealand with us. They've been lurking in the corner 2 years ago at the conference, and now they are brave enough to present what they have done over the last years. And they have become veritable experts in using portfolios in the programs that they are running. So initially I supported Sue and her colleagues with the e-portfolio, and then Sue kind of took over all the technical stuff in her program, and I hardly ever got a phone call. And so I knew, yes, it's going well. And so I'm really looking forward to learn more now that I'm not so involved anymore. I look forward to learning what they are doing in their program, and in particular the collaboration aspect, because we often don't really hear so much about that, since oftentimes we have personal portfolios, individual portfolios, but how can we actually bring in collaboration? So please take it away, Sue and Gwen.
Thank you, Christina. Tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko e mihi nui kia koutou ki te iwi mana whenua. Ko Smarti tako ingoa, ko Gwen Davitt tako koa mahi. Yeah, this has been a big challenge for us because we've only been doing this since 2014, and so we feel quite early in our development. And Christina only hears from me when I'm in an absolute panic, like when I go to Australia and have to teach students over there, and Christina's on the other side of over here supporting us. But we've really enjoyed working with Mahara, and we just wanted to share a little bit of the ways that we've actually been working, trying to make it a group. We've set up some groups, and we're trying to work with groups within Mahara. I'm going to explain a little bit about the context that we work in and what we've done, and Gwen's going to show you a couple of student examples, and Gwen's going to talk about the experience of working collaboratively, and she'll share some of the resources we've used with students to get them working collaboratively. This is one of the slides we actually use with our students, and very much I needed to make a link between community of practice to community of learners. This is based on Wenga's work, and it is from an early childhood source from Margaret Carr. But very much when we're thinking about collaboration or a community of practice, we're thinking about the ways that you work in a community to develop some theories, to solve some problems, to find out about new things, to express ideas and thoughts so others can think about them as well. And one of the big things in our course is about caring for others, and when we set up our group assignments, we want the students to feel as if that sense of manaaki, so it's about caring for your mate as well as working in a group to achieve your assessment. And it's about getting the community work done. So the context that we're working in, we offer a postgraduate diploma of leadership in early childhood education, and the paper that we're talking about today is leading pedagogical change. So the 3 learning outcomes for that paper are around developing an identity as a pedagogical leader, and obviously the e-portfolio is a really important place to put the artefacts that show that. They also do a project on leading curriculum change within a community of learners, and gaining pedagogical learning and knowledge. As part of the assignment that we've set up around group work is about gaining some technological skills using Mahara as a collaborative learning and teaching tool, building some critical knowledge and understanding of theory through teaching others, through disseminating knowledge, and working as the community of learners. So this is the actual assignment. It's a group task, and students are asked to develop a poster on a page in Mahara collectively. So there's one artefact that they do together. They then go off and present that poster to a group of early childhood leaders outside of the course, and that can be anyone, usually their teams of leaders that they work with, and then they reflect on the process of how it was working as a group within Mahara. They also are required within Mahara to create a page of supporting documentation that shows evidence of the group processes that they've used, and some of the tools are there. They also have a page of resources about the content. So that contains some articles they've read. They do a literature review in there, and that is then used to support the e-poster. The Matara tools that we've used so far they quite often set up with forums. Each of the groups has a lecturer assigned to the group, so we can go in there and check how they're going and what they're doing or not doing. We either give them, as lecturers, we give them feedback via the forums or sometimes in the comments page, and often as they're developing an artefact, they'll give each other feedback via the comments function as well. I actually create a collection that they can copy, but they can change the pages once they've got the collection into their groupie portfolio. And I've set up some templates for them to use based on some of the work that Christina and I did at the very beginning. They have, at the moment, they have 4 pages. One's the assignment instructions, and the pages are set up for them, as I said before. Some of them have used file sharing quite successfully, and as I said before, they're free to add or delete pages. We haven't used the journal function very much, but I'm thinking about that, and I'm hoping that the next group who start this semester might use that as well. We've had to offer quite a lot of additional IT support because our leaders have often been out of study for a while, and some of them are a little bit older. So at our face-to-face block courses, we've actually helped them download their templates while they're there for us to help them. We usually have a session at the block course where they're all together, where we will go around in their little groups and help them with any technical problems they have. Lots of them end up deleting pages or gathering many pages that don't really belong to them. We've also done some work on with video conferencing for small groups who want to know about editing. Our IT group have actually developed some nice visual guides that they quite often use, and part of the whole point of doing it as a group is learning from each other and sharing the IT skills that they have. So it's a blended learning course, so that students come to 2 block courses and they are online for the rest of the semester. We set them up in collaborative groups, but they actually chose their groups. At the block course, we talked about what a group would look like, and we told them that your best friends are not necessarily going to make the best group to achieve this assignment. So we talked about that they needed someone in their group that was theoretically sound, that would help them with the literature review and those kind of things. We talked that they might need someone who is conceptually or visually very strong and being able to develop an e-poster that was actually interesting for everyone. And we talked about they might need someone who was IT savvy to help them with the technical skills. And what we actually did at the block course, they were set up in a little group, a little speed dating exercise to interview each other, because they didn't necessarily know everyone in the course, to find out about what their peers' strengths were, but they also found out what their own were too. So they were in groups of 3. We deliberately made them in very small groups this time, because when we had them in groups of 5 or 7 last time, some students hid, and we wanted all of them to be contributing. And this is just an example of some of the documentation that went on their supporting page. This was about how their group was going to function. So some of them uploaded handwritten documents. That was actually an agreement of what they agreed they were going to do. The other one, they've been doing some work around cultural historical activity theory, and so they actually used that theory as a way of solving problems when their group got into trouble. And so that was also the way many of them actually allocated the tasks and responsibilities for doing the work. This group actually did quite a lot of work around, they kept minutes of their meetings. This group also had a timeline of when things were going to happen. These are just shots out of the portfolios, the artefacts they actually put up. Minutes, and most of them actually put up a nice little photo of them working collaboratively, so that as the lecturers we could give them some nice feedback about what they were doing. This group used a lot of file sharing, so they had quite a different approach to how they went about putting their information together. Every group just about did it differently, which was one of the really nice things about being part of their mentoring for this group. This is an example of one of the e-posters they put together. They've actually made it, it's custom animated so that each section falls down, and this group was the communities of practice. They chose community of practice as their theory that they were going to explore. What's really interesting is they're continuing to use their e-portfolios, and even though this was an assignment this time last year, they're still presenting it to groups that they are involved with about what is the community of practice and working with their teams. Reference page. This in the actual, this has come across in a slightly different way. This is actually also animated where they've got, it drops right down, but what they've done is for the distributed leadership, not delegation, they've actually got a series of it's all come in at once, but it's animated so it comes in at separate times. Yeah. And they also had their references, and this group had a YouTube clip attached to their poster. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. Gwen, yours.
So that was just to give you a couple of examples of like the end product. But one of the key things that happened as a result of us using Mahara was enabling the students to come together and work together as a community of learners in a different way. So as Sue said, each group was set up with an e-portfolio collection and their individual pages, and then they developed a group agreement, some of them called it a treaty, about what we're going to do as a group, how we're going to do it, and what our end product will be. So not only were they focusing on the subject content knowledge, they were actually focusing on learning what lots of people have talked today and yesterday about, is those soft skills, about coming together as a group of people and being collaborative and creating a collective outcome. So some of the things that they gained as a result of being part of the group was the fact that they were able to share their knowledge and skills, and that was across everything. So whether it was their IT skills, whether it was their written skills, their conceptual skills, their subject content knowledge, all of those things came together. And because they were discussing it and they were engaging with the content on a regular basis with others, and often they were sharing their own understanding and gaining clarification from others, or kind of increasing others' learning. So they gained a far deeper level of understanding. And the cultural context, the contextual relevance of the content, because they were often working in different types of workplaces. So it was, well, look, in my workplace this is how this fits, but someone else said, well, in my workplace we actually do it differently, we do it like this. So it was that whole kind of application of the theory to practice and being able to again talk about it. As Sue said, because they were in small groups of 3, they had to be visible, they had to contribute, and as you know, particularly online, sometimes it's people who, like myself, don't like standing up and talking in front of groups of people. We can hide quite easily. We can still contribute because we can do it through a different medium. Whereas those who are more extroverted find that really comfortable, but so they learn those skills as well, coming together in a group, supporting each other to be able to contribute, and also providing additional support in terms of the dissemination of the end product. So we wanted them to understand all of the skills that happened about coming together as a group, about establishing the group. What do we need to do to establish our group? And most importantly, what do we have, strategies do we need in place if things go wrong? And that's one of the greatest things that I think most of the groups struggled with, was when, you know, Johnny wasn't contributing, or Johnny wasn't meeting the deadlines, or Johnny kind of said, look, you know, I'm this real IT whiz, I can do all of this stuff, but when it actually came to it, discovering that Johnny's sense of self was slightly larger than the reality. Time management was critical for them, because everybody was, you know, has their own different lives. Some people wanted, you know, meetings on a Monday because then they could work on it for the rest of the week, whereas others said, well, actually, you know, I've got other responsibilities, but I'll be available on Saturday. So negotiating all of those skills that they were then translating into using in their everyday work practice. and obviously what we called choreographing their actions, and we've stolen that from this article that came from O'Sullivan. So a lot of what we were doing was underpinned by the work of Winger and the whole community of learning, community of practice, and talking about the importance of it being a place of engagement. We wanted the students to get out of this process a depth of learning, a depth of understanding, that integration of theory and practice, and to be able to cater for the different learning styles. So whether you are the visual learner, the kinesthetic learner, or the auditory learner, the tools of Mahara enabled them to do all of that and to really create this place of engagement which was the e-portfolio. And this follows quite nicely on from your work, Tricia, about the whole concept of the skills that they were learning were enabling them to be employable, I guess, and to be able to put some other strategies and skills on their CVs to say, actually, I can work as part of a group, and not just a face-to-face group, but a virtual group as well. So it was all about their working in teams and being able to come together to produce the results, which for us was the e-poster. And it's just interesting that in this excerpt from the Victoria Business School, it talks about the ability to being a team player as consistency, one of the 10 graduate attributes that employers want. So we thought that, you know, that fitted well with our own philosophy, values and beliefs. So we gave them some tools, and this was one of them that comes from the Victoria Business School, and it talks about the success of working in a group, what you need to do. It gave them practical ideas and it gave them resources, but it was up to them to decide what to employ and what not to employ. We've just put a little proviso in there that we work in education, and this came from the business school, so sometimes for the students that they did need to kind of interpret it and make it so that it was contextually relevant for what they were doing. And having said that, the students in this particular paper, some of them are in New Zealand and some of them are in Australia, so their own employment contexts were quite different as well. We then one of the assessment requirements was that they needed to reflect on their own contribution and participation in the group, and to reflect on what did they gain from actually doing this assessment. Some of the literature that they were looking at around that was, well, what makes a group effective, and particularly around strategies and processes. We asked them to talk about the challenges that they encountered and how they overcame them, which again was further learning, the strengths that they in particular contributed to the group, and what are they going to develop for future, for working in groups, and also that feeds into that employability aspect of it as well. So these were just some video clips that we gave them as a starting point. The first one is some really good strategies around about how to work in a group properly and effectively. The group project Nightmare is a bit of fun really, and it's a university drama group who've created a song and kind of dance around about working in a group and the horror stories, and then again just reiterating some of the advantages of working in a team. So we really want to thank these students, because they are the students who enabled us to be able to show you the examples from their e-portfolios. And it's one thing putting your assessment in for critique by your lecturers, but another thing to kind of know that it's going out there and being shared with everyone. But they were incredibly proud of the work that they achieved, not only in terms of their e-poster, which, as Sue said earlier, is also being shared wider, but also the skills that they learned just working in a group in Mahara. So, there's our presentation. So, is there any questions?
Do you think that the nature of the students that were involved has impacted the results in a way? I mean, they were post-grad looking at education. How would you think that translates to first-year nursing students undergrad? In terms of those...
Right. We actually, throughout, even in our bachelor programs, which are early childhood education, the students do work on group assignments. They don't use Mahara as the tool yet, but I think maybe you're right that in education, one of the key things that we do is encourage that collaboration and collective. So I'd like to think it was transferable. But yeah.
I think it's interesting, and you see this in the research quite a bit. Like, you know, somebody is trying an initiative, whatever it is, it works really well. If you look at that, oh, but hang on, those ones, it's kind of like this, preaching to the choir.
Right, yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, yes.
The other thing is it is a leadership course.
That's
so
right.
We expect them to be
leaderful.
Interesting though, they all had their problems, and in some groups it really didn't work, and we just left them to. Partly we left them to figure it out, but that was part of the learning too. And some of them didn't actually get the grade they expected, but in their reflections it was really strong about what they could have done quite differently, and the reflections were actually marked as a separate piece of work, so they got half for the group and half for their individual reflection. So that kind of balanced out, but the reflection was really interesting. Like lots of them said, we had lots of skills but we didn't share them. What a pity, you know, we could have actually helped each other, but they were interested in the task at the end. And I don't think we'll ever change that, because you can tell every cohort that comes through about the one that's been before, but they don't get it until they experience it.
And to be fair, partly they've been trained into this individual approach very strongly. That when I do a piece of academic work, it's from me as an individual. I'm graded as an individual. You know, I don't actually have to cooperate or collaborate with anyone.
That's right. Yes.
If the school children are working like this, then the school are working on, you know, in the social program, onboard work. So why would it be a future individual?
Well, I mean, my experience is very much in that realm, and when we shove them forcefully into groups, you know, like you have 800 students and your groups of 6, and off you go, and you do a contract.
Yes.
This contract, and we tell them that you can glue in the face, you know, make sure everything is, because some stuff is going to go wrong, you know. And you can say this all the way, but those comments, that reflection, I've seen this in the end of semester evaluation. You know, when they have this space, when they can say stuff, and they say the same thing. Oh, well, you know, it turns out that we were pretty crap at our group work, but, you know, it would be nice to go around. And I've used that feedback, obviously removing identifiers, to show them to show this actual feedback to the next cohort. And say, those are not from me. Those are the guys that just finished. Those are their words of warning or advice to you guys. That worked quite well, and I think to have, I wrote it on my notes that the reflection part seems to be the key to all this.
Absolutely.
Not to force, but to incentivize that reflection step seems to be everything.
Interestingly, 2 groups came back and said, can we do a group reflection, because we thought there'd be much more learning. But my academic side of me said, no, we agreed that we would do it individually, and in the groups where it didn't work, it was probably better that they did an individual reflection, but there would be a whole heap of power in bringing those groups together, maybe facilitated, to have a conversation about how their group went together. They're still talking about the group assignment a year later. That's still one of the favourite things they did.
And I think part of it was the whole way that they formed their groups as well. It wasn't just necessarily about working with their mates, it was about finding people that had that collective range of skills.
I really love your idea, like the little speed dating for the skills and wake up. That was brilliant. It's a very nice way to
We need to acknowledge Kate over there. It was her idea.
What about the freeloaders? Did you get groups that complained that it's a small group, obviously 3 people, but did you still get groups that, you know, that's a perennial student complaint with group work is that you get freeloaders in the group who don't do very much, and then they get the grade credit anyway.
No, we did threaten them if they didn't contribute to their groups equally, and that's partly why the lecturers were in the forums and things to see who was, and giving them gentle reminders if they weren't contributing. We did threaten them with a make-up task if you did not, and that was written in the instructions. You'll get a make-up task if you don't contribute to your group. But punitive, but actually it worked.
And also because the reflection was an individual mark, that had an impact.
Balance it out.
Absolutely.
So you didn't have sort of things like blind peer rating of each other and stuff like that?
No, we didn't, but yeah.
I have tried that, and that seemed to work as well, where the peer group rate each other on a range of criteria that are really carefully explained,
Right.
and then that contributes to the final grade. And then if they choose, they can actually, the student can also reveal that rating to the other peer and have a conversation with them about it.
Well, that's something we could definitely look at in our leadership paper.
Yeah.
Votes, so you give each person in the group 10 votes. Say, 10 votes amongst the rest of your group based on the contributions that they made and those things. It wasn't very clear who's
Who hasn't, yes. But I mean, I think Mahara is the tool that also identifies that as well, because you can see who's put what up. Christina.
I mean, that's a classic case of how to do collaborative work, in that the contribution of the group is much more than what each of the people could have done.
Absolutely.
Individually. So I think it's great.
Thank you. Christina.
If somebody, for example, here wanted to start collaborating with students, what are the 2 or 3 things that you'd give them on the way and say, these are the things you should kind of definitely make sure to put into your checklist to start a collaborative portfolio activity or community of practice that leverages portfolios?
I think for us our success was about they were studying the leadership model of community of practice anyway. So maybe a little bit of theory around what is a successful or what is a community of practice. Like that very first slide was one we actually gave to them really early on.
And very clear expectations, you know, so that they know, and that they know the purpose. Yeah.
We had a whole heap of strategies in the background of what happens if you don't.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We learned as much as they did.
Well, we did, absolutely.
Irene has a question.
They'd already done an extensive unit on conflict resolution anyway, using cultural historical activity theory, so that was one of our fallback strategies.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you very much, Gwen and Sue. And I think your presentation has shown very nicely how important scaffolding is, and that it needs to be done in order to get the results that you wanted to achieve. So hope everybody has taken something away for their own studies, and you for your own learning. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.